What's up, Red Raiders? It's TJ, and I hope you guys are having an awesome Tuesday so far. Now, from the title of this video, I'm pretty sure you know what we're going to be talking about, but just in case you don't, in this video, we're going to be going over the good, the bad, and the ugly of online classes as well as in-person classes. So, as registration is slowly approaching again, you can be more informed and more aware of those traits so you know which style is best for you in the future. So, let's go. Alright, so we're going to be kicking this off with in-person classes. So let's start with the good, because I feel like, it's good to set the groundwork, get the good foundation going. So let's think, what can we think of that's good about being in person? Alright, so let's start with the obvious one, right? When you're in person and you're taking in-person classes, you are more likely to meet people and just start conversations and interaction and having that human connection. And sometimes that's like a hit or miss, because sometimes it's like, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to interact with people. But for the most part, overall, it is a really good experience. And most of the time, I feel like in the times that I have like met people and met friends and like that I still talk to now within my major and things like that, it has been because of in-person classes, because I can, talk to them, or it's like, oh, you're looking over and you can kind of like read people's faces and facial expressions and kind of things like that, and the vibe overall better. So yeah, I would say that would be my first good thing about being in person. Another good thing about taking in-person classes is like, well, if you actually go to them. Typically, I feel like a lot of people learn better when you're taking in-person classes, just because it's like you're sitting there, and even if you aren't fully paying attention, as you're just listening, you're bound to like at least pick up like some little word or key phrase or something like that. And oftentimes I found like sometimes it's like those little things that you don't fully understand, but it's like a random word, and that's the thing that'll be on the test, and then it'll be like, what is that thing? And then I'm like taking the test and I'm like, I remember that word, that has to be it, and most of the time it is. So not saying that's going to be like that in all your classes, but I mean, a pro of just going in person is most of the time you're just more aware of what's going on in the class, and you're actually more likely to pay attention to the material, because it's like less distractions. Typically you don't want to like interrupt the teacher or be, I don't know what you would do, but you would be more likely to not be as distracted when you're in person classes. So that's another pro. Oh, another good thing is like, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes professors and like teachers, they'll understand and like appreciate the fact that you're actually showing up. So I've had like a few of my professors that kind of like throw in little hints or like things to look out for, especially when it comes to test time, for those people who are actually in the room and like who are going to in person. So I would say that's another pro of like being in person and taking in-person classes, because sometimes you're more likely to get help or like get that little extra push, towards success, if you will. All right, so now we're gonna get into the bad parts about being in person. So I would say one of the things that I just don't like, I mean, not that I don't like, but one of the bad things about being in person is like sitting there. There's literally some days where you're tired, or you're just drained, or you're hungry. That's literally all three of those are me, like all the time. And so like I go to my in-person classes and I'm like, all right, good for me, because actually showing up is half the battle, ladies and gents. But yeah, so then when I'm in my classes and there's half the time where I'm like a little tired, or I'm a little sleepy, or that's the same thing. Just like out of it, or I'm kind of hungry or something and my stomach's growling and I'm like, oof. That's literally all I can think about. And so then there's that part of like literally just sitting there in the class, waiting. Because like you don't just want to like get up in the middle of the class and just be like, all right, professor, deuces, while he or she is like in the middle of their lecture. You don't want to be all disrupted and stuff like that. You don't want to be just like walking out 15 minutes. I mean, at that point, it's like, really, why did you go? I mean, you might as well just save your time at that point. So that would be like what I would say is like my bad part about being in-person classes, or taking in-person classes. All right, now let's get into the ugly. So I would say like, literally the only big ugly thing I could think of for taking in-person classes is just the fact that you actually have to like get up early, or like get up and go. And that's honestly the biggest part. Like showing up is half the battle, guys. Sometimes we're just busy with other classes, we're hungry, there's other stuff going on in our life, and we're like, ooh, do I really want to go into class? Especially if it's early in the morning. And that is one thing that I would be cautious about. Like if you know you're not a morning person, do not or try your best not to sign up for an early in-person class, because that's going to be like the hardest part, literally just showing up and waking up, because some classes are set up differently where like if you miss a couple days or you miss a few lectures, it's fine. But a lot of times, especially as you're advancing and getting more and more into your degree works, a lot of those classes, it's like if you miss like one or two, you're like, what happened? You're like, what, where are we? I thought we were on syllabus week and now we're like on the final, and I'm just confused on everything that's going on now. So I would say that's like one of the ugliest parts of taking in-person classes, is literally just waking up, showing up, and holding yourself accountable to actually go. Now to online. All right, online classes. I started taking online classes before COVID, before it was cool. That was not a fun time. So I would say one of the best parts for me personally that I love about being online and taking online classes is, well, let me specify actually. I would say the best part about taking asynchronous online classes is that you get to work at your own pace. And basically that's what asynchronous means if you didn't know that. Asynchronous is just like you work at your own pace, you get it done by the due date, but you don't necessarily have to like check in every single day to get the work done. But for me, I love that because I'm one of those people where I know when I have stuff to do and I know there's a time and a place to like get it done, and I know when I need to get it done by. But like up until then, there's times like, I mean, it's life. It's like we're all going through stuff, or it's like something happens, or some days we're just not feeling it, and then it's like, oof, I really don't want to work on this right now. And so I feel like asynchronous classes for me work best because since I can hold myself accountable, it's like I can work at my own pace and get it done when I need to, but still have time to like relax or take a chill day or take an off day, whatever I need to do, just in case like, I'm not feeling it basically. So that would be like one of the biggest pluses and good things I could say about taking online classes. And the other good part about taking an online class too, even if it is like synchronous and you actually have to like check in or do something online at a certain time period, typically it's like you don't necessarily have to be in a classroom, so you can be at home in your pajamas, chilling, waking up. You can wake up like 10 minutes before, open that computer, start typing, log in a Blackboard, get on that thing, and you can get it done and not have to like really stress or like worry about getting ready and all that kind of stuff and what the weather's outside and blah, 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 blah. Now, a bad part about taking online classes is the fact that a lot of people don't necessarily learn best when they're taking online classes because of the style of lectures. Because typically with like online style of lectures, it's like a pre-recorded lecture, or sometimes they don't even do that and it's just like PowerPoint and readings. If you're one of those people who have to like be in person to be engaged with the material, then that could be a bad part for you. So if you're not able to like focus and take the time to actually read those readings or like actually watch those lectures and not be distracted, then that could be detrimental to like your grades going down the line. Now, the ugly part of online classes. I would say the ugly part about taking online classes is honestly kind of the same thing as taking in-person classes, and it kind of just comes back to accountability. So just like how you have to like actually show up, that's one of like the biggest parts about taking in-person classes. To some degree, that's kind of like the same thing, or one of the biggest parts, or one of the worst parts about taking online classes too, because again, especially if it's asynchronous, a lot of times people can like put it off, and when you just continue to put it off, since it's like, oh, you can do it at your own pace, a lot of times people will wait until like a week before, or sometimes I know some people who even wait like a couple of days before, and then they're doing like 4 to 5 weeks worth of material, trying to finish it all in like that period. And that drains them so much, and they're stressed and like crying and all this other stuff because they're like, oh my god, I did not plan this accordingly. So if you are planning on taking an online class, I would definitely say to try to manage your time well, and for the most part try to like stick to a schedule, because even if it's like asynchronous and you don't necessarily have to turn it in for another like week or 2 weeks or whatever, it's good to just get into that schedule and routine, so it's like basically your mind's like in an in-person class, or like in that routine of going to an in-person class, so you're still getting the stuff done, but you are not in an in-person class, you're online. So long story short, if you're the type of person who you can keep yourself accountable and you're gonna get your stuff done, but you don't necessarily want to go to a class every day, and you're okay with just not necessarily having all those interactions with people every day, I would say maybe considering an online class could be good for you, because you can for the most part work at your own pace but still do your own stuff. But if you're one of those people where you're like, dang, I don't even know if I can keep myself really accountable to go to in-person, I don't know how I'm gonna go like online and do all that stuff, then I would just say stick it out in the in-person classes. Mostly all the in-person classes are really good, and you get to meet a lot of people and stuff like that, and there's super fun, Well, not super fun, but you know, it's still school. But you get a lot out of it while you're in person for sure. And honestly, now that, you know, COVID and all that kind of stuff happened the past few years, it's kind of nice to be back in person and get to have those interactions again. So it's really up to you and like what style of environment you work best in. That's all I have for you today. And if you have any good, bad, and ugly things that you think about when you think of online versus in-person classes, definitely put those in the comments below and I would love to check them out. And if not, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Bro, these cars love... they love to drive by the moment I decide to... It's like literally I'm like, all right, let's start now. And it's like... like, give me a break. Give me a break. Immediately no. Yep. Mm-hmm. Another good thing about being in person. Another good... I can't talk. Be present to like really understand and like be engaged with what?